So week 2 of the NHL is in the books, and whereas after week 1 we were making some pretty headstrong knee-jerk reactions, by this point all teams have played 4 or 5 games, so we have at least a decent sample size of being able to tell which teams just had a bad opening stretch to start the season, and which ones might actually be in some big trouble. So let's see how things have shaken out now in our second power ranking / tier list of the season. As a reminder, new tiers will be added and subtracted every week. Tiers are read right to left, meaning the best team in each tier is on the far right side, the worst in each tier on the left. And we'll start at the bottom in the Giga-ass tier. The San Jose Sharks remain here from last week, and they're joined now by the Chicago Blackhawks. Nothing really good to say about either of these two teams. For the Sharks, obviously it's been rough not having Celebrini in the lineup, but I also wonder if we need to start having some hard conversations about Will Smith. It's only been 6 games into his career so far, but 0 points so far. Not exactly a great look for a guy you took with the top 5 pick a couple of years ago. For the Blackhawks, as we expected, it's Connor Bedard and little else. Teuvo Teravainen's been great with 7 points and 3 goals, but he's shooting at an obscene clip. Seth Jones also 1 goal and 5 points. But beyond those 3, Taylor Hall's only got 2 points in 6 games. There's just not a lot of offensive support for this team. Above those two in the ass tier, we got the Blue Jackets, Ducks, Canadiens, and Flyers. Nothing really big to say about any of these teams. They're all pretty bad. And in the tier above them, I have the Flames in the I want to believe tier. Everybody is putting the Flames very high in their power rankings. I do not have them that high yet because their wins have all come over teams that are at the bottom of the standings, like the Blackhawks and the Flyers, or ones who have gotten off to terrible starts like the Oilers. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope the Flames continue to dominate, but I need to see them beat some quality competition. Above them, we have 3 teams, the Sabres, Red Wings, and Penguins. These are all just bad teams, not good. All 3 of them have their goaltending problems, and the Penguins in particular, with Tristan Jarry, that is an ugly situation, but I think all these teams are going to finish towards the bottom of the standings this year. Right above them, though, is the Are You Actually Good tier with the LA Kings. They're 3-1-2 on the year, but like with the Calgary Flames, their wins are all over bottom feeders like the Ducks, Sabres, and Canadiens. They've lost 2 games in overtime, including one to Ottawa, who is a pretty shaky team, so I'm still a little bit on the fence when it comes to the LA Kings. Next up, we have the Shouldn't You Be Good tier, which includes the Ottawa Senators and Colorado Avalanche. The Ottawa Senators slipped a little bit last week. They went 1-1, but their underlying analytics are pretty bad. They're 12th worst in terms of expected goals percentage in all situations. And not having Ullmark in net right now is a huge hit to the Senators because Anton Forsberg and Mads Sjogard are not very good. And for the Avs, yeah, they finally got some wins, but beating the Ducks in overtime and then the Sharks, not exactly impressing me. Above them are the solid teams, which includes the Utah Hockey Club, St. Louis Blues, Washington Capitals, Minnesota Wild, New York Islanders, Vegas Golden Knights, Florida Panthers, Boston Bruins, Seattle Kraken, Carolina Hurricanes, and Vancouver Canucks. It's really just a logjam of these teams who are all very clumped up together. I think they're all good. I think they're all playoff worthy teams right now, but I'm not sure that I'm putting them in the elite category just yet. And I do want to shout out the 3 big improvers from last week that are in this tier: the Wild, the Kraken, and my Washington Capitals. The Caps obviously beat a bunch of really good teams last week, including Dallas and Vegas, and their underlying analytics are looking really good. Minnesota also had a nice 2-0 week. Seattle was 3-0, and they managed to beat the Calgary Flames, the only team to do so. And I know I don't have the Flames rated that highly, but that's still super impressive. But another team that dropped big is down here, Vegas. They lost all 3 games, collecting only 1 point out of a possible 6, and they're actually one of the worst teams in the NHL in terms of expected goal percentage, 6th worst, ahead of only teams like the Hawks, Bruins, Canadiens, Sharks, and Ducks. In the next tier, I'm fully pulling the Nashville Predators out of the elite conversation until they prove otherwise. At best, they're mid right now, because they are still 12th in expected goals for, and are bottom 2 in both goals for and goals against above expected on the year, so I think they're getting some pretty bad puck luck right now. But the fact of the matter is, when you go 0-3 and you lose to teams like Edmonton, who is also struggling, and Detroit, that's just a bad look for Nashville. 4 contenders up above them: the Toronto Maple Leafs, New Jersey Devils, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Winnipeg Jets. I know the Jets are the only undefeated team in the NHL so far, but they've only beaten 1 team with a winning record so far, that being Minnesota in overtime. They're going to be tested this week against teams like Seattle, Calgary, and Toronto, so I think we're going to get a much better sense of how good this team actually is in a week's time, whether they are a contender or whether they are truly an elite team. In the next tier, all by themselves, we have the Oilers. Last week I said that they were elite but sleepwalking. Now they're awake, they're still a bit drowsy. They beat the Predators and the Flyers last week, 2 teams that they're supposed to beat. They lost to the Stars, but that's not really a bad loss in my opinion. They're 11th best in the NHL in expected goal percentage. I think that they're going to recover once their secondary scoring wakes up, as I kind of said in my video earlier this week. And then finally, the two elite teams in the NHL, it's still the Rangers and the Stars. I think the Rangers are the best team in the NHL, Stars right behind them. Even though they lost, the Stars have still only gotten tripped up by one team, that being the Washington Capitals. And I'm going to be really interested to see how they perform tonight in the Frozen Fury against the Buffalo Sabres. There's going to be some great matchups tonight.